What's up guys, so I wanted to put out a video showing off kind of the new 5 rulers. I wanted to explain how I think they should be played. I'm going to be doing a deck profile on all of these, but I know a lot of people typically look for like box openings and stuff around this time, and I thought, like instead of spending the time showing you what you can get out of a box, I kind of want to just like pave the way for people to be able to just pick what they want from that set. So I wanted to explain kind of like what direction these rulers have and like what kind of playstyle they have. That way you guys can decide like which ruler is best for you if you're either getting into a new ruler or kind of interested but don't know if it's worth hopping into and kind of are lost in direction in terms of like, I don't know, these cards don't seem to go really well with them. I kind of want to give you like a different angle on how these rulers might be able to be played and how I think like the most competitive way to play them is. Because the way I've always viewed it is it's totally cool to have like fun decks and stuff, and I have nothing against casual play. I always use like a random deck at my locals too. I don't always go for like the tier 1 like Alice roll deck or whatever either, but I think that if you're gonna use a rogue deck or a like casual deck, you should still make it like the most competitive version of that deck you can, because that way it's still like you're using your favorite character or your favorite ruler or cards that you might like, but you're not just trying to be like I hope my like 10 card combo goes off and if it doesn't I lose, because then you're not really gonna have any fun. Not that like winning is the source of having fun, because I don't believe in that either, but like you want to have good matchups and you want to have a good time, and so I kind of want to do that with this kind of video. So I put together like just a small interaction, I guess, stuff. It's nothing crazy. I'll go into more detail when I do the deck profiles for all of these rulers. But we of course have Sol, who was the next mana ruler we got. This one is both blue and red. Previously we only had Mars and Mercurius, and they weren't seen too much in like competitive play, but a lot of people, especially like a lot of the pro players that we've seen in events, they had their eyes on this card because Rising is just really good. So it returns all monsters to the hand. You can drop 3 water resonators from your hand after. Essentially you use Rising to drop like 2 to 3 Captain Hooks and then just get rid of all of your opponent's stones, and then they can't respond next turn and you eventually just beat them down. That's still one of the angles that Sol can play this deck. The only advantage he gains over Mercurius is that his demon is not only better than hers just because hers doesn't go to the hand as easy, but what's nice about him is against a deck like Feetsing Turbo, if Feetsing went first and opened up with Guinevere, Mercurius couldn't do anything about it with Energize. However, because he can energize blue and red, you can energize Lightning Strike and just hit the Guinevere. So like small interactions like that just make the fact that he has red also just better than Mercurius, so like he should always be played over her, I think. In terms of Mars though, this is a card I've had my eyes on. I think this card is really good. The only problem with this card is only getting rid of 1 stone, even if you do it early on, sounds good, but testing against the NineTailed Fox, he gets stones very quickly, so sometimes getting rid of 1 just doesn't do anything, especially because you can't pick, like they just sack 1 themselves. So I was thinking about, trying to version out where I just try to get 2 of these to my hand instead of like the hooks and the Rising, and I just resolve 2 of these like back to back, because it costs 6 and you start with 2 and get 10 when you deactivate, so that's 12. So you can resolve 2 of these like right after each other, which isn't too bad. But that's using all your mana counters just for 2 stones, whereas like Rising also puts all this damage on board. So it's hard to say which angle you want to go with. I might think like the Rising might be better, but the thing about this version is when I look at this card and I look at his demon, if you're going to be playing water, Charlotte's Water Transformation is of course a really good card, and if you want Rulers of Moria for stuff like Space Time Anomaly, you can use Armis, and Bow and Water Transformation go together even better. But then at that point, like Mars's demon does 400 on enter and it goes back to your hand at the end of turn, so it almost seems like it would just make sense if you want to go with this version to just play Mars, because actually in that situation his demon is a lot better. You just have like endless removal. Every 1 water transformation is a destruction from the demon, and it goes back to your hand and you use the remnant from the grave. So 1 demon and 1 water transformation becomes like 2 destructions every single time, let alone the bows and the space-time anomalies. So Mars might be better for that version, but in general I think Sol with Rising is really good. We also saw like a lot of like Rune of Soul says you can search any ancient magic. Cards like that are definitely cards like people want to look out for. I think they're just really strong cards in general, and yes, I generally like Sol more than both Mars and Mercurius. I think his demon going back to the hand with activating a chant is actually like really good. It's really good ways to like waste your opponent's resource. But I'll go more into that when I actually do deck profiles for these. But that's just kind of like a general idea of how to play Soul. The NineTailed Fox, this is probably the most talked about and popular ruler at the moment. He's the one that summons all of these griffins from the side deck. There's no reason to main any of these. Don't ever main these. If you can summon them from the side deck, it doesn't matter if you're losing the slots. It's just worth it. What makes this deck so crazy, and I realized through testing, you guys might have seen like the Ryan Miles versus Alex Blandon stream too. They were streaming matches using Pkwy. What makes this deck really, really, really insane is just that this card, the Griffin, is just ridiculous. Like essentially, if you happen to open like a Killing Stone and you can turn 2 just J-activate and get Griffin off, it makes it so that you have a J-Ruler on the field, a 12/12, and 2 stones, which is what you were going to have by turn 2 anyway. And then you can, if you have like a Blessing of Yggdrasil in your hand as well, you just use the 2 stones you got with Griffin and Blessing, and you hit another Killing Stone and you have 3. So it's just like insane. Like, or if you can summon a little red and then next turn summon a 1-drop black and get rid of her and summon another Griffin, you're at like 5 stones. It's just, or 6 I think, because you get to tap 2. So like, yeah, like you can get to stones really, really crazy. And the deck typically doesn't have like much to do with all the mana because like you have just a bunch of low drops in the deck. But the thing is like once you start resolving cards like Dance of Shadows or whatever to start reviving these cards back, it just starts getting really crazy because like you're still of course swinging for like all these big numbers. Manticore also being able to hit additions is really relevant because I think like I was thinking one of the counters to this deck is like Barrier Seal, but like he could just Manticore it and like sure he'll lose the resource once from like sacking stuff and them getting removed, but then like you lose your Barrier Seal and like how likely is it that like you're gonna get to more Barrier Seals before he like starts going crazy again? So this deck is probably my favorite deck of the new 5. The only problem I saw with this deck too is it's very how do I explain it? Like it kind of feels like I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I use like just a bunch of small stuff and then like synchro summon into like a bunch of big stuff. It has like a cool idea, but like after a couple games I kind of felt like I was doing the same thing every single time, and if I couldn't open up a specific play, it would be like kind of a drag because I had to like grind more to get to what I was doing. And I knew like it was still going to be fine because he doesn't like fall behind too easy, but like it was just kind of like annoying. So I have to do some more testing. I'm not too sure. It's definitely a fun deck, but then at the same time I kind of feel like it was kind of repetitive, like, which is weird because I don't really get that vibe from Force of Will too much. So it was just like a strange feeling to build this deck, but it's definitely a really good deck and it was pretty fun to play. So I have mixed feelings about that one for right now, but I definitely think he has the most potential. And then we have Faria. Faria has a couple cards to look out for, but none of them are spectacular. There's just a couple things that I think people are overlooking with Faria that I think is very, very important. So the only inheritance card we got that actually like draws a card or something when you use the effect is Shining Kirin. It says you get +6/+6 and then you draw a card, or if he enters the field you draw a card. That's the only relevant inheritance card other than these two like to even talk about, but it's still not that great just because it's like sure. But you know, you can argue that Faria can discard this on the ruler side to draw a card, or she can like J-activate and use the effect, which will like draw a card anyway, and then she gets all the damage. The only thing I think people are overlooking with Faria is something I noticed when I was playing Pkwy a lot actually. So I think Pkwy loses to heavy counter decks, and back in the day when like aggro was still really big and I wanted to play tree really bad, I could never think of a good build because like other than the fairy one I posted, but like I wanted a control tree deck and I didn't like it because like I didn't want to use Ruler's Moria because like Regalias with tree are terrible, and then we only had 4 light green stones, so like Seal wasn't guaranteed to go off as early as you would want it to. And so now I was like, oh cool, we have 8 white green stones and this deck wouldn't suffer from Ruler's Moria, so like technically I can have 10 white green and like some other colors as well. But then I was like, oh, okay, so I have all the counters ready, but like what's my win condition with tree? Like even Alice was kind of arguably not that great, so what can I do in this deck? Like what came out that makes it good? And I realized that what makes Faria kind of cool is her J-Ruler side is like huge and she's like not that bad. And like, okay, so This is the interesting concept I kind of noticed. So Faria costs 3 to J activate. When she enters the field, you get a stone. So like essentially you didn't like lose for J activating, like you're still progressing your game state by getting a stone. And then if you use the effect to discard an inheritance card like without paying the cost, and you were to discard Feetsing, you get Monocle into the field. So that's like another mana that it puts you up. So you're kind of like outpacing your opponent. And then she's a 10/10, which is kind of like your win condition. So like you're playing a pure control deck, but your J Ruler is your beat stick. And it's really cool because like you don't have to go hunting for it. It's obviously just it starts in play. So I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool concept. Like, I kind of completely overlooked her, but now I'm kind of like, okay, like, this is cool. Like, Amaterasu is recurring. Like, so arguably you can main her just for the ruler side discard, and you can say, you know, like, eventually I could just bring her back, so it's not like I lost a card. Plus, you're drawing off this anyway, so it would just be like a +2. But so Amaterasu is not bad. Shining Carrier might be like just like a 1-up to like search with Faria summon, like when you deactivate, because essentially like it's not a bad concept to think that like if you're poking at your opponent with like Tamas and all this small stuff, that you can like swing for 2,000 just to finish them off, because like she can get really big really easily, and it's not even like cheesy or like, oh, I have to have like 10 Levitins or whatever. Like you can run the Levitins because you have the white, so you can have Percival. So it'd be kind of an easy way to get the Regalias. You like benefit from having the Regalias anyway, because like there's a lot of decent like ways to use it with her. Like the swiftness for her is pretty big. If you run bow and you have rulers Moria, you could use water transformation arguably. You can give her Apollo if you want to start bouncing stuff that you're playing anyway. Like let's say if you know, like summon Amaterasu from grave late game and then bounce it with Apollo, and then like use the inheritance effect to give her +8 and then like swing, just like little stuff like that. Like there's a lot to like arguably say she can do, which is like more than I ever gave her credit for originally. And then like the fact that she has barrier for 0 is really nice. Of course you can't use that like towards Black Moonbeam, but like I think the problem a lot right now with Black Moonbeam is that like a lot of people say that like that card's either too strong or something like that, but I think it's totally necessary. Like it wasn't, I don't think it was made for reflect. I think it was just like really necessary all the time, because certain rulers would be like crazy if they just could always come back, and it'd be really frustrating. But like what makes Faria kind of cool is like if you set up and fully control the board and they top deck a Black Moonbeam and Black Moonbeam her, you should still have like a good amount of resource on board. Like they should be like having all of their answers taken care of. So like if they're gonna hit your, like if they're gonna top deck the one card to kill your Faria, that's fine. And then it's like, you know, if you get Black Moonbeam and most people just main one Black Moonbeam, it's not like, it's like, sure, I'll take it. Like, a lot of people think, like, just because Black Moonbeam exists, you can never resolve a J-Ruler, but it's just not true. Like, if she even gets like one hit in, uses one inheritance effect, and you still got a stone, and you still like set up Monocle, that's not that bad. Like I'll take it. Like the 2 stones you get from this, essentially, like the 1 white and the extra mana, is enough to pay Amaterasu's like revival. And she's not like great or anything. It's not like the best card ever, but like if you got to at least swing once for like 1,000, or you know 1,000 plus all your regalias, all these little Tamas, and now you're swinging for 8, like that's all you need to like kind of push for games. So I think this deck is actually kind of like overlooked, and I think counters are going to be really really strong, because what I noticed is like QB is definitely going to be one of the tier 1 decks, and QB removal does like nothing to that deck. Like the way the monsters hit the board, and like because of priority, your opponent can just always use QB to like sack their cards and gain advantage, and it's really frustrating because like you're using all these like lightning strikes or space time anomalies or like removal cards to try to like deal with their board, but then they somehow resolve like a Griffin anyway, get like 2 more stones, and then they keep going, and you're just like tapped out, and you're just like, well, that did absolutely nothing. Like, and if you see this coming and you don't use the cards, like they're still getting all these free cards, so it doesn't matter, and it could be really frustrating. So I think definitely like having to use counter spells is going to be the only way to stop QB, and white green is the only way you could successfully do that with like Seal and Wall of Wind and stuff like that. So it's cool to think that this might be a deck where Faria can take care of Lilas's life, while like he can't blow this up with Amat to gain life because it doesn't target J rulers, and it's like he doesn't have an out for this, and if he draws something that's not Black Moonbeam, if they're maining something that like could potentially do damage to this, you can use the barrier once, and then you're just countering everything in the meanwhile, because like you have all the mana and that's all you need. Like you got it for deactivating, so it's not bad. Valentina is the next one. I don't have any cards to show with this because most of them are just old. I don't like the whole fantasy aspect. I don't think you should play like a token deck with this. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, what do you mean? Like the other side? Like, I don't think the other side's relevant to this card at all. What I see Valentina being really, really good at is taking care of Featsing Turbo, because like the Scorns will also take out the tokens and stuff, which is really good. Or you can you're able to unseen pressure with like energize, which is really good. And the one other thing that is really, really good with Valentina that I think a lot of people aren't considering is like Shackles does nothing to this deck but completely shuts out Mikage. And so what you can do is like Stealth is of course going to be good with her anyway. All the same cards that Mikage uses are going to be really good with this deck, and the spells just get better with her. So like all you really have to do is main Mikage and like with the general like stealth package and whatnot, and then game 2 you side into Valentina, and if they side in all their Shackles and Mikage hate, it like now doesn't matter because you have Valentina. Even if they try to put like more like Dead Sights and Black Moonbeams in because his J-Ruler side is annoying, like you could literally never J-activate and it wouldn't matter. So that's really, really cool. And then your space time anomalies are bigger. These Scorns are taking out certain tokens too and stuff like that. 1/1s that might be on the field, like if there's a monkey trapped in life and you don't want your opponent to have it from the Lilas. And just like it's really good, like it makes it so your opponent mulligans hard for all these anti-Mikage cards, and then you flip this and you're just like, well, good luck with that. Like you essentially have dead cards in your hand and all my cards are still alive, and like I'm still going to scorn you and take out your field while I'm setting up stealth, and like now you have all these cards that don't deal with my stealth because you were too busy dealing with my J-Ruler. So I think Valentina is definitely really good in that aspect. And then lastly, we have Lumia. Everyone knows this is like my favorite character in the entire game. Like I literally like squealed like a schoolgirl when I saw that they were bringing her back. And now that I'm trying to build her, I've been really frustrated because I can't think of anything like too great. White-red is a really, really weird interaction. It like almost doesn't have any cards that are like really good, especially not really good against what's good now. But I have a general idea of what I think I'm going to go for. Like I've been kind of thinking about it, and like all these random things have been hitting me. So Lumia is of course going to be like a blink deck where you like gain advantage from certain cards that go in and out of the field. The only white card I could think of that's like worth blinking is Percival. But then I was like, she has swiftness and she gains imperishable when you get rid of Nyarlathotep. And so it kind of makes it like pointless to run certain regalia. And then I was like, okay, Apollo might not be so bad because you can save your like guys, and then you can do like the little loop where like you summon Naya, and then like if you bounce Naya before her effect resolves, she's not on the field to be removed anymore, so like the card gets like lost forever. It was like something you could do with Izanagi before too. So like you pay the awakening cost for the one white that says you banish a resonator and it returns if she leaves the field. So she enters the field and her enter goes on chase. You banish Apollo to bounce Nyarlathotep. The enter resolves and removes the card, and now like their card's gone forever because she's not on the field to be removed anymore, so like the card can't come back. And so I thought that might be a really interesting interaction. And then when I was like, oh, Percival can grab regalia, like what else is he good for? He can also grab knights, and of course like white red has always been like a knight deck, and I was like like I don't really think Lancelot and stuff are too good right now, but they're not like super terrible either. But I was like, man, like if you're playing against QB, he could just pop and heal so much that like it's going to be really hard for him to be able to do anything. Like, I mean, hard for you to push for damage when he could just heal. But then I was thinking like the one kind of interesting interaction is like this card's always been kind of bad because it doesn't have quick cast. And excuse me, sorry, and it doesn't have quick cast, and like so I thought it was kind of bad, but you can of course use it like with this interaction, but then it's still kind of bad because it's like, you know, you're using like 2 cards to try to do like this combo play instead of just having like normal removal. But I was thinking like if you have Percivals that are searching Gwaines, which are technically powering up the Lancelots, and every time a Gwaine attacks you rest something, you can technically like use this to then kill the card, which is kind of cool, I guess. And then like you can use this later when you're like, because like late game this deck is really good because if you could just keep J-activating and she has imperishable and like healing, it's actually like really relevant, especially because she could do like a good amount of damage to heal. And so I was like, okay, like late game if you're just swinging a lot and like you have this in the grave and you can like deal with threats, it's not that bad. And then I was also thinking that like technically, if you use Rulers in Moria, you can main like one final forfeit or something, because Guinevere gets through your deck really easily with like Root Gig and stuff. And I was thinking, like, even that you don't even really have to use Root Gig, but I probably would. Like, the only reason I don't want to use Root Gig is because I kind of wanted to main a Barrier Seal, just because I thought it was like a counter to all the other good decks right now, and she doesn't really like lose out on anything if she has her cards get removed from game, other than maybe this, I guess. Well, that's a kind of a big deal. I'll think about it anyway. But yeah. So I was thinking, like, if you have Rulers Moria and you have like a final forfeit, you could just final forfeit Fox and then use this on it, and it just dies forever, which is like kind of a really big deal. It would like pretty much be game, and he wouldn't be able to do anything. So I think like that's really interesting too. And like, you know, you're like stalling because you're healing so much and taking out, like, you can attack into creatures of course and still heal, which is really good. And then I was like, oh, like if you attack with Gwaine and rest something, and it's rested for you to use like this, or like maybe that Blessed Knight card, but like, it's not a Knight of the Round Table, I think, so you can't search it, which kind of sucks. But you can like Root Gig for it, I guess, but it's like 4/4, so it's kind of terrible. But like technically I was like, okay, then if you blink the Gwaine at the end of turn, like if you don't have a Percival, because in any other situation Percival blink would be better, but like if you blink the Gwaine, he's like recovered now, so if he blocks he can rest something else, and so it's just like endless resting. And I was thinking like, that actually doesn't seem like so bad. Like you might be able to play some kind of like rest deck, and then there's like Shining Strike, which is a 1-drop that like draws a card and rests a card, which is pretty good. So I was like, okay, like there's like some interesting interaction here. Like you might be able to play something like this. So Lumia definitely is like the most beautiful ruler of them all, and she'll always be like my favorite character, I think, in all of Force of Will. So I really want to be able to make this deck, but competitive wise, I think she has the lowest chance out of all of them. I used to think she was at least better than Faria, but now that I thought of Faria's like crazy counters and stuff, it seems like she might be better. Technically, you might be able to play that same deck just with Lumia, which I was kind of thinking, because like if I use Rulers in Moria, I have the red to deactivate her, and I technically just need to like main like 2 Nyarlathotep, because I could search it with Faria Summon, and then like you play the same counter deck but you deactivate Lumia, and it's scarier than deactivating Faria because she has Imperishable, so that they can never deal with her technically unless they have Death Scythe. And I was like, oh cool, like maybe I should just make the counter deck with her, but it seems more realistic with Faria just because she doesn't have to like pay to life for the stone and whatnot. But I'll have to see. It doesn't seem like a bad idea to play her with white green too, because then you can blink the Tamas and you can still have Percivals. So it doesn't seem bad, but I also don't want to have 2 similar decks, so I have to kind of like wait and see what I think of. But yeah, like let me know what you guys think. Normally when a video comes out, I mean a set comes out, I typically do like a box opening so people can see what you get, but I kind of thought I'd just go over the rulers this time because it's what most people kind of like think about when new sets come out. If you guys prefer this to the box opening, let me know so that I can know to just keep doing that for next set. I might not like waste the time because like I said, like my mom's still not doing too well. She's definitely getting better. She actually got diagnosed with cancer, so we've been having her do like chemo and stuff. And so when we're both at home and she's uncomfortable, I don't want to try to tell her like to leave the room so I could film and whatnot. And so that's why I haven't been able to put up as much videos. And so definitely if I can put out like the perfect videos when I have the time to film instead of stuff that you guys are less interested in, that's like better on both of our time, because then I know I'm giving out the type of content you guys want while, you know, being courteous to her and making sure I'm like using my time smarter. So definitely just let me know what you guys think. She's doing well for the most part. There's no bad signs. Everything has been going really well. So for everyone that was like wishing her well and everything, it truly means the world to me. Like every time I read a comment like that, like it actually touches my heart. Like I'm not being cheesy or anything. I really, really mean it. So yeah, thanks for all the good wishes. Videos should be coming back normally. I'm going to be doing the deck profiles as fast as I can. I think I'm going to be testing QB today, so QB might be the first deck that comes out. But let me know what you guys think. If you want to leave a comment on which ruler you'd want to see, I can always just like tally up all the votes and just go with whatever you guys picked. So that's an option too. But yeah, let me know. Definitely leave a comment. Subscribe if you haven't, because videos should be coming back to a normal schedule since there's a lot to talk about and most of it's really relevant. So I don't mind putting aside the time, and I'll definitely catch you guys next time.